We went on the air with the idea of allowing people to participate in the morning worship service. That was the key. We were not here to disrupt it. We did not want the tail to wag the dog, financially or in a worship setting. And so the opening voice, mine as it turned out, said,
"Good morning. We would like to invite you to participate in the morning worship services of the First United Methodist Church."
And that's what we wanted the TV audience to do, was to participate in that service. And I think we kept pretty true to that through the years.
Well, I'm going to start on talking about this ministry before it actually came into being and how it came into being.
Richard LaBoon, Richard Lindsey, and I got active with a 30-minute telecast.
There were three individuals, myself, along with John Brutsche, and Richard Lindsey, better known as Dick Lindsey. Richard Lindsey was working with an audiovisual company. His company was given a van that was actually a little one-camera studio type thing, and he was trying to sell these things, this van, to these individuals to make their own commercials. It could be done that way because in that time and day, the television stations were clamoring for material, for news, for commercials to be run on their stations.
And then Mr. LaBoon, Mr. Lindsey, and I decided that we needed a church, the church-sponsored type production company, a religious production company.
We got to talking about it one day out in the garage. Our wives were inside doing their thing, and we were out there. And the idea came up because a local station, Channel 5, had been to our services on 2 different occasions, and it was quite a job for them to do that.
We put together a business plan and presented it to Walter. And Walter realized he had 3 guys who had no clue as to what we were doing or what we were talking about. And he said, why don't we see about getting the church service on the air through public service time? Long story made short, he basically reminded Channel 11 that Fort Worth was the largest city in the country that did not have a Sunday morning worship service originating in it.
Or we have the ability to come up with a process of showing our church service on Sunday mornings. And I said, I know you have another prominent Dallas church on the air, but they are in Dallas, and we are a Fort Worth church.
They were televising First Baptist Church in Dallas, and Channel 11 was ready to make a change.
I called Earl Cox III, who was then the chairman of the board, and asked him to go to lunch with me. And I said to him, you know, here's a Dallas church, but they're telecasting on a Fort Worth station, and they've had 16 years of free public service time. I wonder if, just in the interest of fairness, Channel 11 wouldn't be willing to let a Fort Worth church do that.
Walter told the church hierarchy here, we've got the time if we can just get the equipment. He told Channel 11 that we've got the equipment if we can just get the time.
Well, Earl was very enthusiastic, and he agreed to go with me to the station manager. And we just walked in, had an appointment, told him our story. We would like to be on television on Sunday morning. We're willing to put the money and the effort to do it well, to do it professionally. You have performed a great service by allowing First Baptist Church and Dr. Criswell to be on for these 16 years, but we are a Fort Worth church, and we want to ask you if you would be willing to give us a chance now. And immediately he said, yes, I'll be glad to. He said, nobody ever asked me before. In the next 2 weeks, he had about 77 telephone calls from churches all over the country asking him. But up to that point, he said nobody had ever asked us before. We'd be glad to do it, provided you buy your own equipment.
We got the equipment, and through a challenge grant from the Carter Foundation and some creative financing and some lenders, and we researched the equipment, and especially Dick Lindsey and Richard, really, as I'm sure you've been told. Richard was the technical genius. Richard LaBoon is the creative one, and I sort of tried to coordinate it and was the spokesman.
The National Broadcasting Convention was in Chicago in a couple of weeks, and we decided that we needed to go up there and see what was offered that we could afford. So we did, and we all came back so excited, and we got everybody else excited about it, and we told them we needed a room on the 3rd floor of our educational building so that we could install a studio.
Researched equipment, went to other churches around to see what they were doing. Matter of fact, went down to in Louisiana and looked at a church there, a large Methodist church, and what they were using for how they were doing their telecast.
So we worked for about a year and a half before we actually went on the air.
LaBoon and Lindsey researched the equipment and were looking at that in the early 70s, 73, 74. Made some decisions and had several demonstrations from companies coming in, and the equipment was delivered in November, December of 74, and a crew, a bunch of young kids from the youth division, big help, and we literally strung cable from this building to the sanctuary. Through the attics, we found places in the church we didn't know existed and didn't want to know existed.
Fall of 74, when the equipment first came in and we were training on it, trying to learn sort of what the capabilities of it were. We were all volunteers and did not have television experience. So we just wanted to share the worship service that was being held in the sanctuary to other people outside the walls of the church.
We went on the air the first Sunday of March of 1975. Channel 11 was here. They watched what we did. They never had to come back.